So as I was saying,
Everyone.
you are my everything.
Nice.
No, I was feeling nervous. I don't know how you're feeling about this. I was feeling a little anxious. I think it's excitement, as you told me to
Oh, that's
reposition it,
interesting. Yeah.
where this feeling of anxiety is also the same thing you feel when you're excited, which is so wise. But then I was like, but it's Vee. She's my comfort.
That's
She
really
makes me
sweet.
feel soothed.
Oh, I actually last night I was like, oh my God, I'm excited. Almost I was like, oh my God, it's going to be like a rebuttal. Like I was like, this is going to be a really good episode. And then we're not even going to want to listen to the first one. I was like, it's going to be so great.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of The Mothers. That meant we have a first episode. So here we are, number 2.
Thanks for coming back. We know you've been waiting on pins and needles.
Exactly. We're so happy to be here. I'm particularly happy to be here with Vee, who is my safe space. And we're so happy you're joining us in the early days of this podcast adventure. So real quick refresher for those who are just getting on board. Who are we? I'm Sara, former Google exec, former pro soccer player, and forever mom of 3. I'm joined by Veronica, known as Vee, who again was by some miracle our first nanny. I really feel like it was divine intervention. I don't really even believe in those things, but
Craziest thing.
And carried us all through earliest days of parenthood, and then moved on to corporate America life, and now has her own little baby, and thankfully still talks to me. My soulmate in life.
Bi-weekly via text. No.
fellow traveler. And then, so the mothers, what is this? Okay. So the concept, real quick, our first episode had a much longer story about this. It includes Sarah McLachlan. We did not forget you. We always remember you.
In the arms of the angel.
But basically, we just wanted to get to know these remarkable mothers among us. Like, who are they? How are they doing? How are they doing it all? What do they think about it? I personally was feeling like the representation and stories of mothers in the media felt like it was missing something, like primarily, i.e., like the humans that are also mothers. So with this podcast, this idea of how can we humanize mothers? We are superheroes, but we're also just humans. And wanting to get to know them, join them as they reflect on their life through the lens of motherhood is a nice phrase I'm trying to kind of incorporate. So check out the social media hashtags one day. But questions like, how has their identity evolved? How have their priorities changed? Wants, needs, ambition? What's been hard? What's been nourishing? What have they learned about who they are and how to navigate this life? Like, please tell us. We are here waiting for wisdom. So again, in the early days, format wise, it'll be Vee and me getting our bearings. So chit chatting about motherhood as we've experienced it and as we are seeing it around us. But quickly will evolve into really more of an interview format. So we're working on some guests, and still wanting to manifest rock stars like Alanis Morissette, Robin Arzon, who just kicked my ass on the bike the other day, Alex Morgan, Julia Louis-Dreyfus would be truly on my dream board. I think I would just cry the whole time. And then I don't know, Maya Rudolph, Nancy Pelosi. There's a laundry list of laundry's the wrong name. Yes, just these crazy icons. But to that point, actually, also important that we get to know the non-celebs, because just because you're famous doesn't mean you're more important. The mothers like us who are doing it all outside of the limelight. Doctors, lawyers, scientists, PTO champs, coaches, just the proud mothers out there. How are we doing? That was the main focus here. And to that point, as anyone has ideas about or people that you want to be hearing from, just shoot us a note. We have a more friendly email alias now. hello@themothersmedia.com. Boom.
So official. I love us.
Yes. Okay, Vee, I wanted to reflect on our first foray into podcasting life. How did we feel upon releasing our first episode?
Yeah. Okay. we talked about this at the library where we met up, and you were feeling like it seemed like almost, well, I don't want to put feelings into your, I don't want to
Go
speak
ahead.
for you, but it seemed like you were like even more anxious after we released it, which is
Yes.
interesting because then once it was out of yours, our protection and bubble, then it's open to criticism and enjoyment, critique, and whatever.
Yes.
Um, I think maybe I felt like a little shy. I was like, oh no, what if I didn't say anything that actually matters or is new to anybody or impactful or smart, you know?
Mhm.
But then that quickly like subsided for me at
Yeah.
least. I was like,
Yes.
no, I know that this matters and it's important. And even if it's not groundbreaking, it's still comforting to hear.
Yes. And I will say for a fact, people have mentioned that they really appreciate your take and ads
Hmm.
and offerings and the whole thing. So
Love that for
you
me.
are always adding value.
Thanks, girl. I appreciate that.
No worries. But yeah, I definitely felt, um, relieved for like a fraction of a second that it was out there. And then I
Yeah.
really did shift into like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God mode. And
Yeah.
I think this one of my many challenges is powering through and destroying this idea of perfection, which I, in
Yeah.
theory, don't believe in at all. But I have this total need to be, not need to be perfect, but a need to not fail. And I think putting it
Mhm.
out there, something that is so vulnerable, which is so brave of us. But once it's actually out there, because when we're making it, it's just you and me, like
Yeah.
staring at each other in a screen. I'm in my basement. This is a very safe space.
Right. Yeah.
And then you start to put it out there and you share it. And I stand by everything that it is. I think it's built on a really important why, which is that
Mhm.
we need to shine a light on these women that are carrying so much themselves, families, communities, etc. Um, but I was worried. I don't know. I was worried that someone would like find a spelling error and be like, "Man, the whole thing's shit."
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I
um, so
agree and
yeah.
resonate.
But what I was mentioning as I was like quietly sharing it with a few friends was basically like, I think the core purpose of it is bright. Like the future is bright for that. And I think there are
Mhm.
things that we can, iterate around the edges. But I feel like it's starting off in a really good place. So
Yeah.
yeah. The other thing to pontificate about this slightly, but I think did I mention to you this? I think I did. The trendy-ish book, The Creative Act by Rick
Mhm.
Rubin, who's this
Yes.
music producer.
Yeah.
And it was a book, it's really about sort of the philosophy of what it is to create anything, art, music for him,
Mhm.
um, life, business, whatever. And it was a book that was given to me as I was leaving Google, by a like very in tune colleague of mine who was like, I think you should read this. And it was fine. I picked it
Here,
up.
you need help.
Yeah, exactly. This might be helpful on your journey. Um, so 2 weeks in, or maybe a month after I left, I picked it up and was trying to read it. I was like, what is this philosophical bullshit? Like, where are my
Yeah.
deadlines? Where are my KPIs? Like, this is not practical. And then a couple months later, I picked it back up in a sort of detoxed from corporate America state of mind. And I found it so comforting and encouraging. And it goes into this feeling of to create is such a tender, vulnerable process. And there are
Mhm.
specifically times where you need to hide away, basically. If you put too much light on this thing that you're trying to carefully
Yeah.
create, it will like ruin it. It'll die. But then there is a period of time where it sort of takes root, and you need to start bringing it out a little bit more because it has reasonably strong roots and it can kind of like handle the
Mhm.
pushback. But that is a scary time. I think that was what I was feeling when it was finally out there. And again, not even like thousands of people. No one's gonna find it, like unless I text someone and be
No,
like, "Can
no
you
one
find it?"
cares. No.
I know, I know.
No one's gonna find
But
it.
yeah. So, anyways, it was comforting to think about that, and also what you said to me, which was this: the anxiety is a very similar, if not identical, chemical experience to what excitement is,
Mhm.
and maybe retraining my brain as maybe I'm not anxious, I'm excited for what could be happening.
Yeah.
So I'm just brainwashing myself, and we're gonna be fine.
Well, it's also like think about and I feel like I've said this multiple times, but first of all, you have been so brave recently. I feel like in this past month, even the obstacle of like opening the boxes to like look at these microphones and think
Mhm.
about the things that you're going to say into them and what does this mean? And oh my God, am I really committing to this? And uh, am I powerful or brave or smart enough to put my thoughts out there? And does it even matter? And you
Yeah.
did do that. And that was really
Yeah.
scary. And that was
Yeah.
awesome. And now you're
Yes.
here.
Yes.
But also, your whole life and often all of our whole lives growing up, it's like there's so much structure and expectation. And like you said, KPIs, all these things of like, I know if I do this at work, then this means success.
Yeah.
And when you're erring on the side of more creative or unstructured or new things like this, it's like, how do I know that it's successful? Does it mean if 200 people have listened to it, if I have 5 new subscribers and a debt, like what are the markers of success or impact? So it is totally uncomfortable and it's hard. You and I both are like this, that we both don't really love doing things that we're not great at because it's uncomfortable.
Yes, I have a
So
terrifying urgency to if something's not working, I'm like, the
you know
world's
what?
ending.
Never mind. I didn't want to do that anyway.
Exactly.
So it
Exactly.
is hard and it feels
Yes.
really vulnerable and raw to just like expose ourselves and talk and have people look at us or listen to us. It's
Yes.
scary, but
Yes.
it's also good.
Yeah. Well, and such a blessing truly to be able to do it with you.
Yeah.
That and in general, like having community around all of this stuff, like to your point of the what are our KPIs, why are we doing this? I think
Mm-hmm.
what was really nice was with the trusted few that I was sharing it with, that their response was that they felt like seen, they
Mm-hmm.
felt connected,
Mm-hmm.
um, they felt sort of moved and a part of something when they were listening to it. And I think that was
It's really special.
really special. Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
kind of, and the point that's what's tricky about, and
Yeah.
even Rick Rubin talks about this, like the tension between creating to create and then creating for a slightly business, for a business oriented
Mm-hmm.
purpose. I assume that once it's businessy, it's corrupt. But I also think we
Which
have
is
thoughts
fair.
that I want to share more broadly. So I think we're trying to sit in that like very precious, authentic in between that's
Mm-hmm.
trying to do both things, which is hard without being like overly analytical about it.
Yeah.
Because
We
sometimes
would
it's not that
never.
deep. Yeah, exactly. It's not
Well,
that deep.
really political. What?
Yes. Also, the insisting on our own joy
Uh-huh.
concept. I felt like I even had one of my favorite best friends was saying that she had thinking about how she was a former soccer player with me, and she was saying how she had jumped into coaching her kids, like sports teams, and then she enrolled in playing more soccer again herself, and
Uh-huh.
that was something that she felt like she was finally doing for herself because the coaching was really like for
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
But playing the sport herself was for her, and it was much more enjoyable and kind of brought back these beautiful feelings. So, um,
Love that.
I know.
Go
Making a
favorite best friend.
difference. Exactly.
You got
Exactly.
a girl.
I know. I made her up. Let's be honest. You're my only person.
I'm like,
So, and then this other
she sounds
favorite
cool
person.
or whatever. So, no, I am happy for her.
Yes, I'm happy for her. What else have we learned? Oh, real quick, that this is really harder than it looks.
So much harder.
Um,
What the heck?
and I now have so much empathy for like the bad shit that people put out in the world because they
Oh, bless your
really try.
heart. You're doing your best.
Yes. Like right
Yeah.
now, someone's probably like, the mic is too loud. It's like
Right.
screech it, whatever.
Right.
But
I
it's
know.
hard. All the little endless trial and error, which one could say maybe we hire a professional to like just come in and give us a solid consult. But like a lot
Yeah.
of like test one mic and then that, or
Yeah.
switch out your camera, but then like that causes some other issue, or getting this up on Spotify.
Yeah.
To my perfectionist point, the description in the Spotify, if Spotify is listening, listen to this. When you put the episode description in there and you have a paragraph, you know how in like normal world, you make a paragraph
Mhm.
and there's like space.
Yeah.
Spotify does
Can you
not
not
honor
do
the
that?
space. You have to do
Oh,
like
that's so
double
frustrating.
spaces. And
No.
then Spotify also doesn't allow me to immediately correct this, which I've been on the scaled big tech side, so I understand that this is hard. But now on the creator side, it's like I
Mhm.
get why these things are so painful, because then to go back to correct and add an extra space, it's not an immediate fix. So then it's like
No, that's
twenty
really
minutes to
frustrating.
2 hours later, or
Did I
maybe a
save it
day
or
later.
no?
I know, I know. And then the specs of the cover art for Spotify are different than what fits with Apple. So that's also
I
fun.
don't really understand why everything has to be so hard. Isn't life already hard enough?
It's so hard. It's so hard. And then my last complaint, I was trying to get us onto
My
Instagram,
last complaint. Okay.
and I wanted to do one of those cool grid puzzle things. Like when you
Yeah,
launch a
those are
brand, you
very
like
cool.
do a takeover of
Mhm.
9 squares on your
Mhm.
thing. So then I go into Canva because I'm so hip. I know how to use
That's
Canva.
my girl.
Um,
Yeah, she knows Canva.
constantly being like, how do I do this in Canva? Watching all the
Mhm.
YouTube videos. But so I did all the renderings right. I spliced it up into like 3 perfectly fitting squares. Everything is perfect, perfect, perfect. And I put it on the thing and I look at it on my desktop,
Yeah.
which is still in an antiquated world of Instagram, and it looks fine. I pull up my phone
Oh no.
and it looks all smushed because Instagram has been slowly rolling out a dimension change to what posts are. They're no longer
Wait,
squares.
what?
I know. This is breaking news. Actually, for all the listeners, welcome to
Wait,
what
I
they say,
didn't know
January
this.
28th, 2025.
The beginning of the end.
So
But
it's shifting from
why?
a 1 by 1 to a 4 to 5 aspect ratio. I'm quoting this. I don't
Wait,
know what it means.
why?
Because they think it's more immersive and beautiful. And I think with the squares, which is sad, I'm just bad at change because the square to me is
No.
iconic.
Yeah,
Like
also
that's
it's
what is
part of the
Instagram.
yeah, like that's what the photo fits into and you have to make it work or crop it or
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yes.
That's
Yes. Yeah.
oh,
So
interesting.
anyway, so then I went back and tried to adjust it to this different dimension. And then even that didn't work because it turns out they like
Oh
beyond just
no.
that dimension, they also shave off a little bit. So our faces were like on top of each other.
Thanks.
And then I'm at the Celtics game last night, which is another story I'll tell you, with my dad as a birthday gift. It's halftime. I'm in the bathroom in the stall on my phone being like, how the fuck do you make this puzzle thing? And then it turns out they're basically the end of the story was like, even if you do it perfectly for one, this like new ratio, not everyone has the new ratio. So it's going to be fucked up for some people
Oh,
all the
that's so
time.
annoying.
So, and this is actually, I think, maybe channeling a true mother pride, which is like, we only have so much time. So let's move
Yes.
on.
Yes.
Because the reality is of that grid, the
Yeah.
second you post one more thing, it's
It's off.
broken. Like
Yes.
it's embarrassing to look
Or
at.
you always
So
have to post 3 at a
3 at a
time, which who has
time.
the time for that?
True, 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 true. It's like creating bad habits. That's like sleep
But
training. Yes. Don't do what is
why
it?
would you say that? Why
Yeah,
would you bring
sorry.
up sleep
Not to
training
bring up
on?
a sore subject.
That's like secret. Oh, it is?
I know.
Um, huh.
So
Okay.
anyways, for our Instagram followers, we're probably not going to do the puzzle. We're probably just going to do a
I
single
know you're
post.
sad about that. I have totally been off social media, really, because
Same.
I accidentally deleted TikTok when I thought it was going to be banned, and now I can't re-download it because
Yes.
it's
Yes.
not available in the country.
Yes.
And then I was doom scrolling too much on Instagram, so then I deleted my account because I was like, I
Yes.
don't need to be taking this in.
Yes. Okay, so now what else were we up to since the last episode in real life? Oh, you mentioned it already, but the our Cambridge Public Library experience, not to
So
reveal
full
our location.
circle. I know if you see us in
Cambridge,
public,
England.
say hi. Come
Yeah,
up to us. We
exactly.
love seeing our fans and
We do.
followers.
We do. Um, but yeah, this is I don't know if anyone else will care. This was like one of the most heartwarming, sweetest. I don't know. This made me feel like life is worth living moments.
Life is worth
Where
living.
exactly. Where Vee had a job interview and needed someone to hang with her baby.
Like,
And I got to be the one to hang with the baby while she did her work stuff. And I
and I've
felt
never
like,
left the baby with another person,
yes,
which
yes.
is really special. And yeah, it was like weirdly emotional. And also, I thought I would be more emotional than I was, but I think I just trust you so much that I didn't even think of it as a thing, which
I
I
tried to
feel like
show
is
up like Vee.
huge.
I tried to be
We were wearing
comfortable,
the same
confident.
outfit.
I dressed like Vee because I was like, maybe he'll like me if I have the same shirt, which is sort of the shirt you're wearing right now.
It
Um,
is. We both had boots, black jeans, and a jean shirt. It was weird.
yes,
And we
yes.
didn't talk about it.
No, no, true, 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 true. Um, so that was beautiful, meaningful. Made I don't know.
It's
That was really
incredible.
meaningful to me, and also further eye opening of what it is to care for someone else's child
Uh-huh.
alone, and the intense responsibility of,
Yeah.
nothing would go wrong, but but obviously life happens. I don't
Right?
know. There's just the weight of it. And the fact that you could carry that weight and also have fun within it was amazing. And I know you've talked about this. There's just the anxiety can be real. And it's not
Mhm.
the anxiety that you can reposition as excitement. This I
No,
think is
it's
the real one.
actual anxiety. It's
um,
Zoloft anxiety.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, then people should know that that's true because it's
Mm-hmm.
different than, and you've even said this having your own kid.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, the emotional need to care for what the outcome is for this child is felt differently when it's your own than when it's someone else's.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and it's like a big adult responsibility. It almost feels more adulty to care for someone else's kid than to care for your own.
100%.
Um, yeah, extreme responsibility. I'm glad I didn't become a doctor because I think that's
I
like
wouldn't be good at
core to
that.
that, to being able to do that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that was beautiful. You also have still not slept.
No. Stay 7 without sleep. No. Um, we're working on sleep training, but like also not really. I can't really say that we just don't know what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Because we've tried everything. But that's okay. It's temporary.
Yeah.
And I'm weirdly not as tired as I thought I would be during the day. Like I'm so jazzed and energized. I'm like, everybody else is awake. How fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I know.
so it will
And
get
this is what
better.
I've said. It will get better, but I remember I didn't realize how much better it was once I could sleep.
Right.
Like how
Like,
I
thank
was
goodness you don't realize how bad it is when it's happening.
kind of
Yeah.
like how you're operating on like half a leg and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's a struggle. And really
Yeah.
to the night bitch conversation. Once the sleep kicks in, then you kind of regain the sanity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyway, you're a trooper for doing all of this without any sleep.
Yeah.
Um, we also had earthquakes, minor earthquakes in
Yes.
based out of Maine, I guess, but that interfered with one attempt at a nap for your child,
That was
unfortunately.
crazy.
Yeah, I didn't feel anything here, but apparently
Okay.
it did happen.
It did.
Um,
Tell me about the Celtics.
went to a Celtics game. My birthday's coming up, and my dad came in and we went to see a Celtics game because sports were always our thing and still are. And it's wild
Love
to be
that.
in a massive sporting event. Like it's so
Mm-hmm.
loud, but also so exciting. I mean, I love sports. They lost, unfortunately, which was a
I was
bummer.
gonna
But it's
ask,
just
did
cool to
they?
be like cheering for something altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as I was going there, I was remembering that so there's an amazing woman, Allison Feaster, who was a superstar basketball player at Harvard. She led the team. Was this it can't be the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. Harvard is, solid sports, but not necessarily unless you're in kind of hockey or track and field or something. They're not known for their sports on a national stage. They're sort of like the wow, and Harvard got there too team. But anyway, women's basketball got into the NCAA tournament and ended up beating Stanford, who I think was ranked number one or something. And Allison Feaster kind of led the team at the time. So she graduated, went on to eventually come back to the Celtics, and now she works in the Celtics organization. She has children. I think she helps like on the technical training side, which is amazing. Anyways, I was just thinking she would be an amazing person to talk to,
Yeah.
bring on the show. Anyway, the more that this thing is out there, the more I'm like, mothers are everywhere and they're all doing amazing things. And I don't want this show to necessarily be like, and amazing mothers are only the amazing mothers that are like also, you know, quote unquote, working,
Doing all
contributing
of
in some
these. Yeah.
businessy thing. Like,
No.
but they're all miraculous. And I think,
Every and all mother is miraculous.
yes, exactly. But yes, mothers are everywhere. To that point, my mom and I and my daughter, so 3 generations of women, 2 of whom are mothers, went to see Peter Pan, which was pretty funny because this was over the weekend after our first episode dropped. I'm so cool. And I was watching this beautiful play. Like, it's beautiful. I think it was amazing. The music brings me back because I feel like I grew up
Where did you
listening
see
to a
it?
lot of we saw it at the Citizens Opera House, in
Okay.
downtown Boston,
Yeah, yeah.
which is a great venue because you can kinda see from everywhere. There's some places where
That
you're like,
is
there's
nice.
no way to see, but this was good. Equal opportunity viewing. But I was sitting there absorbing this show now as an adult, which I'd seen, the movie of the Broadway show originally from the 50s, and then there's the
Mhm.
Disney movie, whatever. But the Peter Pan experience now as an adult, and I was like, "This is a story about mothers." Like, that is the story. It's not
Yeah.
about Peter Pan or the Lost Boys, and I don't know if I was just, like, once you're in a zone, suddenly everything is reflects that mindset, but I was totally taken by how Wendy, as a child, is obsessed. She's the oldest sister. She's obsessed with being the mother to her siblings
Mhm.
and obsessed with, like, proving herself to her mother that she's capable of acting like a mother. She takes on this very sort of irritatingly June Cleaver, self-sacrificing, be perfect
Right.
with, like, the frilly white dress, whatever. Be perfect and adorable with the curly hair, cute, cute, cute. Um, but it's all about her being a mother, and then beyond that, when Peter Pan shows up, his whole effort is to try to find a mother for the lost boys,
Mhm.
and, like, "Would you be our mother, Wendy?" And she's like, "I would love to be your mother. I could be your mother." Um, Meanwhile, Peter Pan is always like, "I'm not ready to be a father. I don't wanna be a father." Um, so I was like, "Wow, this whole story is basically, people searching for motherhood." And there was also a funny moment where I think it was among the Lost Boys, they were talking well, it was all this kind of the concept of the mother, like, what is the
Mhm.
mother? Not even like a normalized thing. It was like this sort of other
Mhm.
entity. Um, and at one point they were like, "What does the mother do?" And then the other person says, "She does all the work." And I was like,
You start
wow.
laughing,
My
start
mom,
crying.
like, shoved me in the shoulder and was like, "Are you listening?" I was like, "Yeah, we gotta put this on the podcast."
Mhm.
But then, of course, then I went into my online research mode and I was like, "What is this story? Who wrote this thing? And did that person have mommy issues?"
Are they
Because
okay?
was it yeah, exactly. So then brief history, and if they're history buffs, please call in to correct me. Email me at my very friendly email address. But, Peter Pan was written in 1904 by this guy, a Scottish dude, James Matthew Barrie, who's so cool. He only goes by JM. But he has this heartbreaking backstory
Tragic.
where first, so his James's mother's mother, i.e., James's grandmother, died when James's mom was only 8.
Mhm.
So you already have the story of James's mom taking over mothering when she was 8, and I think they had, I don't know, 25 children. Like, everyone in this era seemed to have, like, tons of children because most of them didn't live, which is also tragic. This is
Yeah.
laughable now, but it's not really funny.
So funny.
So then okay, so that's, like, pre-James tragedy, and then James exists, and he was the ninth of 10 kids,
He's
to the point of everyone has so many children, 2 of whom died before he was even born. Again, which is crazy. This was a nice little nugget that is comic relief, although we're clearly having enough fun talking about all this death. But James apparently only reached 5'3". And I just loved that it was worth noting in his bio. And also,
what a
I
small, small man.
I was like, shout out to the shorties. What a guy. Um, and then, okay, so then tragedy ensues. James is 6 years old. His older brother, David, who is the favorite, dies in an ice skating
So
accident the day
sad.
before his 14th birthday.
Oh,
Mom is devastated. And then James tries to, like, make mom happy essentially and, like, fill the void of his lost brother, i.e., the Lost Boys. Oh my God. And would start wearing his brother's clothes and whistling apparently in a way that his brother did. And there was one thing that I guess James somehow this was written somewhere. He mentioned that his mom at one point mistook him for his brother. And James is walking in and his mom says, "Is that you?" And then James writes, quote, "I thought it was the dead boy she was speaking to. And I said in a little lonely voice, no, it's not him. It's just me." And it just makes me think all of this is totally wrapped up in Peter Pan. I think actually the true novel of Peter Pan is very, very dark in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
The musical version of Peter Pan, further research, came out in 1954 when it became this Broadway musical adapted from this novel play that was Peter Pan or Peter and Wendy. Women got in the mix. We have Jerome Robbins, Carolyn Lee, and Mark, quote, Moose Charlap, which
Love.
is awesome. Thank you,
Question
Wikipedia.
mark.
Anyway, so they flip it into this Broadway musical. The other thing, further layers on all the mothers that have touched Peter Pan. Mary Martin, first of all, is a woman. And so she's playing the character of Peter Pan, who is a boy, which is interesting in general. Mary Martin also, this almost beyond everything shocked me. She was 41 when she played Peter Pan.
Go off, girl. It is never too late to chase your dreams. So, Sarah, you have time.
I know. Broadway. This is my year. I'm going to go back to Broadway. The podcasting, Broadway, it's all the same. So anyway, so I was blown away by her. If Peter Pan's supposed to be this young boy, why are we casting a middle-aged woman? No offense to Mary Martin. She did a great job. Why are we casting her? Or why aren't we casting a young boy? Like, the whole thing is interesting. Also, Mary at that time was a mother of 2 who were over the age of 20, which meant that she got pregs very young, which this was early 1900s. So I guess that's what we do. And then her backstory is also fascinating. She is no longer with us, sadly, but she had all these kids, and then she kind of fought her way back to performing again. Once her kids got older. Is she insisting on her own joy? I don't know. It's a much more, I'm sure, complicated story than my brief internet sleuthing reveals, but there are just so many layers. And I just thought it was so interesting to see the role of mothers, how the mothers are described in this original play that is very kind of a classic view of what a man would like a mother to be, I think, where perfect, happy, always wants to be there, joyful, great imagination, friendly. But this is a thing that is landing the idea of what mothers are, written by a man. And then over time, sort of like within that, now we have this woman who's playing Peter Pan. Like, there's just so many reversals on the whole thing.
It's so interesting.
And then I'm sitting there with my mom and my daughter and being like, is this the view of motherhood that we want to be perpetuating? I don't know. So anyway, it was a layered experience.
Did your daughter have any thoughts on it?
She was tired.
Yeah. She slept. She said,
was
wow,
very excited.
Your woman is exhausting.
Yes, she was. Exactly. No, totally. She was very excited by the snacks. She really loved, if anyone's curious, it was really a beautiful production. There was some shitty Boston Globe review of it, and I thought it was too harsh. It was great.
Okay.
They're trying to do a lot of updates to deal with, like, there's a very brutal historically description of like the Indian children that live in Neverland. And now they've integrated them more as being a part of the overall storyline and wrote new songs for them to be part of it. I thought it was interesting. Like, so they've addressed all of that. And there were elements of how they like made the family life of Wendy and co. a little more progressive, but yet you still have Wendy, who's ultimately early days trying to be such a girly mom. Anyway, go see it. So then that brings us to maybe, as we manifest, a discussion that I will need to be more informed about. But dear local masshole, Jenny Slate.
We love you. Also, one time we saw you in Martha's Vineyard.
Yes, exactly.
You didn't see us, but we saw you, girl.
Yes. One of us might have been quietly doing Marcel the Shell interpretations. Just wondering in case you may have heard.
What was that, like 10 years ago?
I think it was. Well, I think it was 10.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Maybe just under. But yes. And her career has taken off. She's now the nose from the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively drama, which, just a slight tangent, if anyone cares to watch this raw footage that we will not get into the whole thing, but Justin sent out raw footage of a scene being filmed with Blake Lively, suggesting that this proves that, look, everyone's happy, nothing went wrong. If anyone cares to actually watch the whole thing, what is the most amazing part about it is there's a discussion of nose size in the last 10 seconds of this, where Blake and Justin are both mocking Justin's supposedly larger nose, but
Which
actually, I don't
also,
know, I
is
wouldn't even
it?
notice if it was.
Never noticed his
And then
nose.
literally 3 seconds are like one could cut the tape then. But instead, he included the element where he says, "Yeah, that's why we hired Jenny Slate. She also has a massive nose." And then I was
Which
like,
also she doesn't,
which
but
also totally.
okay.
And then cut. And I was like, why are
Hello?
we including this? And then I was just imagining Jenny Slate being like, "What the fuck, guy? Like, what?"
Are you fucking for
Leave
real
me
right now?
alone. I'm
Do
so
not
like
bring
I'm
me into this.
exactly. I am not a part of this, and here you are, like bringing me in by the nose. Like, what the hell? Um. Anyway,
Rude.
Jenny Slate, rock star, very funny.
Love.
And as a writer, she's
Yeah.
the multi hyphenate life
Does
form.
it all. She really
Yes,
does. She's
yes.
funny. She writes. She acts.
Vee also does it all because she is doing all the things and she's reading books, which is something I've yet to really achieve. So,
You're reading books?
yes, yes. Tell me about
Yeah.
Lifeform.
So, in an attempt to get off social media and
Nice,
try to distract myself during feeds or when I'm just like up at night,
nice.
we got this. And
Yes.
there's a few segments in here about Jenny's experience being pregnant and pregnancy and the dreams she was having and how we create life and whatever. And there's a series of I guess she just like explains her dreams and she keeps having this recurring dream with a stork and how the stork brings the baby and her experiences and interactions with the stork. And there was one which it reminded me of Night Bitch,
Mm-hmm.
in its intensity. And this quote, the backstory is there's a stork and it has a rolled up like scroll in its mouth and it's kind of like burning on the end. And the stork drops the scroll and in her dream she wakes up. She's
Mm-hmm.
still asleep and she opens up um the scroll and it says, "When you ask for a baby, you call out to danger as the two are braided together. It is best to see the beauty of the braid. Danger does not mean disaster." And then later at the end she actually woke up from her dream
Mm.
and she said, "I woke up from my dream laughing myself awake, thinking about how bizarre this experience is of making a life form while being a life form." Shout out title.
Yes.
And I just
Yes.
loved it. And I read the whole dream like twice. And then I read it again last night at like midnight or something. And even like woke up my partner and I was like, "Isn't that such a great quote?" And they were like,
Yeah.
"Uh-huh." But I
Yeah.
just love the idea of like all of the things braided together. It's like beautiful and challenging and scary and intense and incredible. I just thought I just loved this idea and concept of like this stork dropping off this note that's like,
Yes.
I don't know.
What
I
were the
love it.
words? The describing the braid, just because it's
Mm.
something doesn't mean it's a
I mean,
disaster or something
yes,
like that.
I'll be
Um,
real. It's when you ask for a baby, you call out to danger. As the
mhm.
two are braided together, it is best to see the beauty of the braid. Danger does not mean disaster.
Wow.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
extraordinary. And I'm like, I definitely don't dream that deeply or beautifully,
Danger
but
doesn't mean it's disaster. I don't know. It
disaster.
just made me think a little bit about to your point, Night Bitch, and how
Mhm.
just because it's hard doesn't mean it's awful, or just because it's hard doesn't mean
Yeah.
we don't like it. Like just sort
Everything
of the
coexists
nuance
and
of
just
words. Yeah.
lives
Yes.
amongst each other.
Yes.
Oh,
And this experience of making a life while being a life form,
so
generating and regenerating. This is not the right comparison, but it's the fastest one I can think of how if you cut the tail off of a snake or a worm or something, like it
it
continues
regrows.
on and regrows or something. Like there is
Or
something
like heals. Yeah.
just it is true, like thinking about how life creating life,
It
even
really
though
makes no sense when you think about it.
yeah, well,
How
we're
did we
still
do
not
this?
done yet, you know? Yeah. Like
Hold
you
up.
think yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Making a life
Yeah.
form while being a life form. It's like, that is so true.
Yes. I did try to read her Little Weirds book.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little weird.
I know.
Um, I know.
Totally.
But I love what she's trying to do, and I love what she's about, and I think she would be an awesome person to be able to talk to in something like
Yes.
this. And she's very reflective. I've heard her on other
Yes.
shows. She even joined she's everywhere. She joined Hard Fork,
Mm-hmm.
which is not her
Oh.
jam. It's about tech.
Yeah.
Um, and she was talking about how she uses AI or the role of AI, or it was just
Mm-hmm.
reflections on the future and like, is Gen
Mm-hmm.
AI going to ruin everything? And
Yes.
she has her very Jenny take on all the things, which is
Mm-hmm.
always very quirky and
Mm-hmm.
deep, but funny at the same time. Like
Yes.
Marcel the Shell. It's like, is this a shell that talks with clay, or is this also like a deep reflection on the meaning of life with like a
Mm-hmm.
French dystopian vibe spin
Mm-hmm.
on it? So yeah, she's a marvel. We should get her on here. Um,
Jenny. Hey
Jenny, are you
girl.
listening?
Yeah, I just
Um, yeah.
everything she has to say is so beautiful to me. I'm like, that's incredible that you think that way. And I would like to pick free.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted
Yeah,
to
yeah.
ask, and you don't have to talk about it. When we were
Yeah.
chatting about Peter Pan the other day,
Yeah, we
you were
could talk
mentioning
about it.
things about your mom, but I didn't know if you
Yeah.
wanted to mention things about your mom.
No, we
And like,
can. I just
yeah.
didn't know when to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think it's beautiful. Like within the context of Peter Pan, that how that story and that creation comes out of such a sad loss,
Mm-hmm.
for the author specifically,
Yeah.
and all this quest for meaning and re-understanding, and for in him sort of the loss of his own mother. Basically, he never got the love from her that she wanted, I think, after that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
after his brother died. But yeah, death and motherhood. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to talk about it though.
Except for me. I famously have a dead mother.
Yeah.
Um, and I've made it totally my personality.
It's her
No, but
birthday soon.
yeah. Oh, you're the best. I love you
Yeah.
for remembering.
Yeah.
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 But I was, reflecting on obviously I would give anything to have my mom here. And I was almost arguably like too codependent, and wherever she was, I wanted to be, and whatever she did, I would want to do it too. And I always wanted to talk to her and know what she was doing, and her to know what I was doing. Um, and I remember when I went to college, and I would just call her like walking on my way to class, whatever. And she was like, Vee, I had you so that you could go live your life. And I was like, oh. Like at first I was like, what the hell? Like, you're my
Yeah.
mom. You're supposed to like want to talk to me all the time. What is that supposed to mean? And then after her departure, I realized like what it was that she was saying, that I would not be the person that I am now if she was still here. Um, and realizing how much like I used her as a crutch. Again, I would rather her be here. I would love for her to be
Yeah.
here. However, all of the adventures that I went on, all of, the moves that I've done, the drives that I've done, the jobs that I've experienced, I know for certain if she was still here, I would not have done those things. And so it is wild. The person that I am today is based on the foundation of who I was when she was here, but I know that my growth and my who I am now would not
Yeah.
be. And that's hard and a weird realization. And like
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like guilty or odd saying that because I am so thankful for who I am now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just know that I was so obsessed and infatuated and just like blown away by who she was, that now that I am a mother, I think about that too, that fine line between like, I love you. I'm always going to be here for you. I want to know everything that you're doing and what you're thinking, and I want to be there to support you. And I had you so that you could go live your own life, not so that you could,
Yeah.
just be with me all the time. And that's so hard and so brave. Like thinking about her saying that, I know how much she loved me and cared about me. And I know that saying that was probably really hard because she knew ultimately, like, I needed to gain independence and,
Yeah.
my own thoughts and opinions on stuff. But that feels hard and scary to actually implement that. Like, I mean,
Totally.
obviously my little one's only almost 6 months, but like I think about it where I'm like, oh, I want you to have, you know, self-soothing skills outside of me, and I be able to be okay without me and have independent thoughts. And that feels hard and scary because I don't
Yeah.
want to really do that, but I know that it's important. So yeah, those are all
Yeah.
of the
Well, it is.
unfiltered loose thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I do think the tension of parenting, I feel like mothers do tend, the early days are so intertwined. Like
Sure.
their wellness is your wellness, their sleep is
Yes.
your sleep.
Yes.
And then moving into another phase where you want to hold them close but also raise them to be independent people that don't need you, is, and then eventually they don't need you and they don't call and they don't, all those things.
Right.
um
Right.
I actually think Michelle Obama randomly was someone, I'd heard her in some interview where she was talking about how her job is to, she's like, my job is to raise good humans.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I think the way that she said it, as she says everything, makes it sort of more lovingly matter of fact about our relative roles, and allows
Mhm.
someone to say, I'm going to have, doesn't mean it's easy or hard, but it's sort
Yeah.
of, because I do agree. I think I am very, especially for some of our kids more than others, my main concern is like, can they function alone? Can they be okay
Will you be
alone as
okay?
adults? Like, can they book their own flight, like
Sure.
tickets?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
can they deal with their own emotions over time? So it's like giving
Uh-huh.
them the skills to function on their own. And I
Uh-huh.
think to your point of how you're so grateful in, you know, the tragic way to have that separation happen,
I
but
know.
that you are who you became yourself, you had to like exist
Right.
without her.
Right.
And how in the most extreme sad version of that way that could happen, you're grateful.
Uh-huh.
So imagine that, like for your child one
Yeah.
day
Right.
would feel strong and grateful, being able to stand on their own, 2
Yeah.
feet,
Right.
and maybe crawl first.
And
I don't know.
hopefully I'm still here. But
Yes, of
no, but
course.
yeah. No, I mean, obviously, I guess I don't know. Now I almost want to take some of what I said back of course, like if she was still here, maybe I would be who I don't know. I think to my core, I am and always have been the same V,
Yeah.
but it probably would have been a much more painful or difficult or bumpy road or path to get here.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have been like, "Do you want to be roommates?" Like I would never have left her side. I
Yeah.
don't think I would ever have gone to California or
Yeah.
left the state if she was here. But
Have you felt
yeah,
weird, mystical or not, sort of connections with her now that you are a mother too, like in this
yes,
role?
I think particularly like those early days where and like labor and delivery where it was like thinking about her doing that with me and that I was once that small like
Yeah.
um and thinking about oh I wish she was here to like tell me what she did, like in those moments where
Yeah.
you're just like I just want my mom and I don't want like a friend or my partner or
Yeah.
mother-in-law or whatever, like I just want my mom.
Yeah.
Um but
Yeah.
I find myself thinking yeah like what would she do or what would she say, which is interesting because it's been over a decade now that she hasn't been here, which is insane.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that voice gets a little bit quieter as the years go on of like when someone says like what would she do or what would she say? I'm like, I don't know because I haven't experienced her in
Yeah.
adult life.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced being a parent with her advice.
Yeah.
So it's more just like guided thoughts of like, well, when she was here, these are things that she
Yeah.
did or said. So then I can guess that this is what she would do or
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
know
yes,
yeah.
more connected, but also, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's such a weird, trippy, and unexplainable feeling for me, at least.
Well, I know she would be crazy proud of you. And I also think, as an outsider who unfortunately never knew her, but I just think you learned how to so many things, but you learned how to mother yourself, and that
Yeah.
is horrifically painful, but I think it's what you have such a deep soul and maternal sense about you
Thank you.
that is a superpower and, built out of great loss, but I really think that's, um, her mothering sort of, I feel like, sits in you.
100%. I feel like
Yeah.
if anybody could, like, if I could be even like half, this is such a cliche thing to say, but so true. If I'm half the mom that she was, like, I want everyone to experience just like a fraction of that love that I felt, which is, I think, why I've always enjoyed being around kids, mothering in whatever form that was, or just people in general. I mean, it doesn't even have to be kids. I just like love loving on people
Yeah.
because of the love that I've received. So I'm like, let me love you.
Totally.
Um,
Totally.
so yeah.
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 I also did, and we can totally cut this, but the one thing I was gonna, was curious if you would talk about, I found it really moving, but the vacuum. Well, I just think there are a lot of mothers out there that are
Mm-hmm.
mothering without a mother,
Yeah.
in different ways, whether their mother passed away or they had a totally
Yeah.
dysfunctional mother or
Sure.
both, and just feel like they essentially felt like they didn't have a role model necessarily as
Mm-hmm.
they're growing up, and also now that they are mothers, they don't have a mother next to them doing, like,
Yeah.
their mother isn't there,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just thinking with your brutiful, as they say, story of your mother
Mm-hmm.
and these ways that she's kind of popping up in this new phase of life for you as a mother yourself.
Yeah.
And I just loved this physical manifestation of this where you were you needed to clean your apartment and didn't want to shell out a huge amount of money for a vacuum. You
Turns
reached
out
out to your
vacuums are
dad.
expensive,
Yes.
guys. Did
Yes.
everyone know that?
Yes. Tell me, where did you find a vacuum, V?
Yeah. So we were in the market for a vacuum because we're like, okay, he's about to start like crawling soon. Vacuums are expensive. And before we decided to shell out $800 on a melee vacuum for those.
Miele.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's German. I'm not
Oh, is
entirely
it?
sure.
Shoot.
I know.
Scheiße.
I don't I don't know. I was like, wait, my mom historically had made great purchases. First of which that I got to reap the benefits of was my Patty the Prius. The
Yes.
second was this Melee vacuum. And I was like, wait, I'm sure my dad still has it. And turns out he was like, I haven't touched it, but it's still in the closet. And I don't know if it works, but if you want to try it, you can. So we went to Connecticut. I picked it up and I was like, this is amazing. Like, still, of course, like spotless and like so well kept because my mom was like, you're not allowed to use this. Like, this is my toy. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, sorry. Like, part of me almost felt a little guilty taking it, even though my dad, again, was like, it has not been used. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm sorry for touching this. I promise I'll take care of it. But I had this wild moment of like, I was vacuuming and realizing that because it hasn't been touched, which like maybe this is gross or whatever, we're getting new vacuum bags, but we didn't have any yet. And the dirt and stuff from our home was being brought into the bag that like
Yes.
my mom had sucked dirt into.
Talk about the
And
braids intertwining. Jenny Slate would be
of
all over this story.
hair and my hair together. Yeah,
Yes.
it was just this like
Literally
really
dust of
wild,
hair. No, I'm just kidding.
like honestly, probably.
Uh,
It was just such a wild, weird, like, I don't know, as the years go on, like the tangible memories or like the physical memories, they kind of, it gets a little more faded or blurry or whatever, or you don't have those experiences in which you discover things that your mom used or touched or whatever as much, because that is how time works. So this is the first time in a while where, yeah, I was like, damn, I felt like super connected in a weird, silly, so like non-important way, but thinking about
no, I
like just
think it's so
pushing it.
important.
Also, like, now that I even think about it, I was vacuuming a rug that like she used to vacuum because we have a
Yeah.
rug from our childhood home. So it just is, it was very odd,
I
and
think it's
beautiful
amazing. I think it's
and weird.
like what makes me tear up is that to me as an outsider, as an observer, it feels like
Well,
she's still finding ways to show up for you.
100%.
And
Oh, yeah.
that's like, I
Yeah.
don't know. That's the
Aw.
magic of life and the
Yeah.
things that we don't understand. Like in
Uh,
this, why would she have that vacuum? Your dad, maybe he keeps
truly.
everything, but maybe he doesn't always, like,
But an odd
doesn't
thing to
care
keep
for
and
things. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Odd to
I don't
keep the bag
know.
in there. I was like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. Also, like the fact that, yeah, it's so representative of like who she was, of like, it was so like taken care of and nice.
Yeah.
And I know that I was such a little like shitstorm and she would buy these things to treat herself, which like who buys themselves a vacuum to treat themselves? But also now being a mom, I'm like, oh, I get it.
I
I'm
know,
like,
totally.
that would be nice. Like I would do that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but
Yeah.
to be able to now like reap the benefits of like her decisions and stuff,
Yes.
even more than 10 years after her passing is pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. I think you're beautiful. She is
You're
beautiful.
beautiful.
We're all beautiful. We're so
Aw,
beautiful.
we're so pretty.
I know,
I
exactly. No,
love
I
you.
think, I don't know. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you
I think it's
for
an important, like, mystical story of, like, we can see things for the most basic version, or we can see them as huge possible
yeah.
magical moments, and you always choose magic, and I love that.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I
Yeah.
love you.
Love you too.
I wish that my mom got to hang out with you because I know how obsessed she would be with you. But I do
We would
feel
jam.
like, yeah, I do feel like in a lot of ways, yeah, when you came into my life was not long after her passing. And I was like, I don't know, feel like if you choose to believe these things that, yeah, I came into your life and you came into mine at a moment when I needed it and needed like a strong mother figure. And
Yes.
you knew in your motherhood, we're like, okay. And I was like, oh,
Yes. Totally. It's making me
I was
cry.
willing to receive it and you were like happy to
Yes.
give it. And that was really awesome.
Yes.
Um, so
We
yeah,
all wanted
I love you.
mothers. We're all like Peter
I
Pan
know.
looking for
You were like,
mothers.
okay, you be my mom and I'll be his mom when you're not
Oh
able
my
to, when
God.
you're at work. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes. 100%. Like, yes. Oh my God. Ah, you're amazing. Okay.
I love you.
I love you too. My
Oh,
tears are real. It's not AI generated, team. We don't have those tech capabilities.
we don't know how to do it. Yeah, that hard.
Oh man. All right. You're a beautiful soul. Um, does it look like I'm crying a little bit? Um, all right. Well, thank you all
Thank you,
for
everyone,
listening.
for sharing your fate.
Thanks for listening to episode number 2.
Thanks for listening.
And as we show up in more places, our little calls to action will evolve. But you get the gist. Follow/review or like and subscribe. Give us the nice things. Give us some positive feedback. Put some wind in our sails. Believe in us, please.
Tell us how much you love
Um,
us too.
yes. We're on Spotify. As I mentioned, despite some friction, we are on Apple Podcasts. And also, despite more friction, we are on Instagram.
And even
So
more
find us.
difficulties.
Even if I don't have a puzzle grid, we are legit people. And then we'll set up YouTube in the near future. So we'll be on all the things. Again, hopefully not TikTok, but we shall see. Please nominate future guests, give us feedback. We want to hear from you guys at hello@themothers.co. And then Vee, as always, has beautiful additions. Maybe we talk
Yeah.
about where our joyfulness is.
Yeah, I
Where's
feel
your
like
joyfulness this week?
ending this on a good question. And for
Yes.
everyone to think about, where's your joyfulness this week? So
Yeah.
Sarah, where's yours?
I know. I think my joyfulness is, well, to be honest, I'm going away on a little child-free vacation for my birthday. So
Mother.
we'll be in the sun.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit excited about that, to be in the warm sun. But I have to say, and this is so cheesy, but every time we talk about joyfulness, there is an element, and this is the complexity of mothers. But I'm like, well, of course I'll find joy in my children. I'll just revel in their joy. But then of course 3 minutes later I'll be like, wait.
Mom said,
Exactly. I know. But tell me,
yeah,
where's your
they're braided
joyfulness?
together.
They're so braided. Where's your joyfulness, Vee?
Yeah, mine this week has been a new connection. I reluctantly, as we talked about last week, like joined this mother's group, and I just let go of the ego of like how weird it was or uncomfortable or awkward or forced it felt. And we've gotten together twice this week, and we got lunch yesterday, and it was really nice. And I'm feeling happy and lucky to like have human interaction. During the day, it could be hard when you're alone,
Yes.
one-on-one with the kid. And
Yes.
it felt really good to get out.
Yes.
So that's where my joyfulness is this week.
What's cool
New
about that
connections.
too, you probably brought others joyfulness.
Uh-huh.
You were their joy.
Aw,
How good could that be? I got
I
to
hope
meet
so.
Vee today. Yes.
I hope so.
I
There is
know.
definitely the awkward. I'm like, do you guys like me?
Yes.
Like, hey, what do you
Now that
thoughts
I've
on me?
only just now that I've only just realized that I want to be a part of this group and enjoy you. Will you like me now?
It just is, it's an awkward, like making new friends as an adult is so hard.
Oh, it's so hard.
Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it feels like high school again. I'm like, well, I have every insecurity.
Yes.
And you?
Yes.
But
well, that's why I just make up friends on this podcast. So that's really the solve.
your other
Nobody has
favorite
friends.
best friend.
All of my favorite best friends.
Who you played soccer with? No.
Exactly. Did she? Can she even stand? We don't know.
Did you play soccer? No. Yeah. So connection, go out there and talk to people.
Yes.
Everybody.
Agreed. All right. We did it. This was great. Well played. I loved it all.
How long have we been talking?
It has been, it's longer because we started things, we paused for things.
Amazing.
But yeah.
That I thought it was way longer. I thought it was like 3 hours.
Oh,
not in a
thanks.
bad way, but I was like, oh God, that was a long time. Anyways, it's 6 o'clock. I gotta go make dinner.
Yeah.